Have you ever wished you could be an NFL general manager? Well, now you can, thanks to Reality Sports Online, a powerful fantasy sports platform where owners get to build and manage their fantasy team just like an NFL general manager. Reality Sports Online was created by former NFL front office personnel and features a revolutionary free agency auction room, which mimics NFL free agency, enabling fantasy owners to negotiate and sign the NFL's top talent to single or multi-year contracts. The platform can host up to 32 teams and has tons of other cool features in addition to free agency, like a rookie draft, multi-team trades, franchise tags, contract extensions, first-round rookie options, automated contract and salary cap functionality, and much, much more. Test your general manager skills for free at realitysportsonline.com in a mock free agency auction. If you like what you see, use the promo code DTC to receive a 10% discount on your team or league today. Fantasy just got real at realitysportsonline.com.
Welcome to the Dynasty Trade Calculator Podcast, a show dedicated to Dynasty fantasy football trades and player values. With your hosts, John Paul Hurley, Izzy Elkaffas, and Nick Whalen.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Dynasty Trade Calculator Podcast. This is episode number 94. Thanks for tuning in this week. This week's episode is brought to you by Fan Controlled Football League. This week we're going to talk about some around the NFL stuff for the Dynasty Debrief, Odell Beckham Jr., Andrew Luck, maybe some Zay Jones, maybe we'll flip it and do something else. I think maybe Nick Whalen's got some breaking news for that portion, actually. We're going to go through some Twitter trades, and we've got some rookie quarterback chatter. It's kind of like a Superflex installment this week for you. So without delaying too much, I'd like to introduce my co-host this time. And Izzy, last week you mentioned that I alternate each week, and I already forgot who I introduced last week first. Do you remember?
I think I got the first crack, so Nick's turn. Pass.
Okay, it's Nick's turn. This week, my co-host joining me is Izzy Elkaffas, a.k.a. the Pharaoh of Fantasy. What's up, Izzy?
What's going on?
Oh, you know, just me being me.
Oh, love it. It's the best you.
Yeah, you got it. Also joining me, my other co-host, Nick M.F. Whalen. What is up, Nick? Oh, smoke alarm! So many hot takes on this podcast that the fire alarms are literally going off. It's not even Moeser editing it in. It's legitimately fire alarms because Nick is hot.
Oh, that is so funny. Are we going to include that in the podcast? Because that would be amazing.
Hell yeah, we're going to include that.
That was perfect.
This is probably one of the most professionally edited podcasts out there, but we're going to leave that there.
The timing on that was impeccable.
I mean, I want to know how hot JP's house was. Are we going to talk about your party, man?
Oh, I think we probably should. It was lit. Last week, you guys asked me how my 40th birthday went, and I said it was rather uneventful. In fact, one of the highlights of my 40th birthday was I installed 2 toilet seats in my house. That was legitimately the most exciting portion of my day. I was a little bit depressed that there was nothing big because you always see these big elaborate things that happen during people's 40th birthdays. Did not happen to me, except on Saturday, I go out to dinner with my family and my wife. I come back to a surprise birthday celebration with dozens of my friends and family, including Nick Whalen, Izzy Elkaffas. You guys came along too. It was, there was like 65, 70 people.
Yeah, that's 5 dozens.
Well, isn't that dozens? Wouldn't you consider that dozens still?
Yeah, I would think dozens. You'd think it's more like a couple dozen, maybe 25, 30 people if you want to.
Well, let me try again.
65?
I came home to hundreds of my closest friends and family in my house, surprising me. I was blindfolded. The whole thing was legit. It was pretty wild. My amazing wife pulled off the stunt of a lifetime. I did not have any idea what was happening, Nick. I was baffled.
Yeah, man, it was fun because, she reached out to me to come up there and, it was a little bit of a drive, but I knew it was going to be something special. And really, she planned it out really well. Like, 1, you were surprised. 2, everybody was quiet. Nobody spoiled it. There was really good cupcakes, right? I like that, and the food, and a good group of people, man. So I'm hope you enjoyed it because I had a fun time.
Oh, it was a legitimately will remember that the rest of my life. She pulled it off, and I was completely blindsided, man. I had no idea. My birthday had passed. I never thought something like that was going to happen.
You even joked and said that you wish you would have been surprised, like somebody would have thrown a surprise for you or something.
I did.
To that nature.
Yep.
And then. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
I'm going to have to try to throw the video up on Twitter because if you want to see the look of complete surprise and utter shock I had that on my face as I walked into my house and pulled the blindfold off. So I might have to throw that up on Twitter so people can check it out.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Pretty amazing. So you guys, Whalen, you're still in Minnesota, the great land of the North Country, north of the Wall. How are you enjoying your life right now?
Yeah, it's a nice little vacay. I didn't like the cold snow or sleet mix early in the week, but it's been good other than that. And I just had some pizza with Izzy. We went to, what is it, Football Pizza, Izzy? Is that right?
Yeah, used to, formerly known as Crescent Moon, now Football Pizza. They're the only place in the Twin Cities that makes a football in the world that makes a pizza in the shape of a football. So, since we are a fantasy football podcast, it was only right to go check out the Football Pizza.
Dude, we were already discussing, the pod and like what we should talk about on here, because eating a football shaped pizza just really gets you in the mood.
Whalen, I have one important question for you. Were the laces out?
Oh no, laces were in. Honestly,
no.
It was wide right. It wasn't good. But I'm hoping we can hook it back in during the pod.
Finkel is Einhorn.
Finkel is Einhorn.
No one knows all there is to know about the crying
for the Minneapolis listeners. What did you think about the Football Pizza? Because obviously Hurley and I have been there a dozen times. So what did you think?
Let's call it dozens of times.
Dozens of times. Probably 65.
No, honestly, I was really pleasantly surprised. I thought it was really good sauce. It wasn't a thin crust. It wasn't a thick crust. It was like that middle crust. And it was legit. I mean, I'm not a huge foodie person. I could eat the same thing every day, but I would go there again, probably multiple times to have that. I preferred the pepperoni. I did not like the sausage that we had, Izzy. The pepperoni was good, but I would go again. It's better than a regular pizza place.
Yeah, good. Yeah, and I told Nick the best part about this place for any Minneapolis listeners is you can smash an entire pizza and you still don't feel like crap afterwards. It's a
smash? Wow.
Yeah, you can smash an entire pizza. That's the new lingo. When you're 40, you don't know the lingo.
Oh, I don't know that. I'm thinking American Pie when you say that, but
You could do that too, and you won't feel full.
Fair enough. The next person that eats it will feel full, very full. Well, let's try to move things off here. Let's get back into the topics here. So, starting off with the first segment of the podcast, Dynasty Debrief, we're going to talk about Odell Beckham Jr., the consensus Dynasty 102, 103, maybe a top 3 pick, we'll call it, because he might be still being taken at 101. But there is a lot of concern around Odell Beckham Jr. with injury, recovery from that ankle injury, off the field concerns. The Giants are rumored to fielding trade offers for him currently, and it's just kind of a weird situation. So I want to start things off by talking to Nick Whalen. Nick, is there cause for concern with Odell Beckham Jr.?
I think there is. When there's smoke, there's fire. He said he's not going to step foot on a football field until he gets a contract extension, which I think for someone like him with the big ego, it seems, I think that's going to be the case. And from what I had read, the Giants GM did not dismiss trade rumors or anything. He just said, I don't want to talk about it, which means that there could be something going on. So I think that it's possible. I think it's a terrible move by them, especially if they go quarterback at number 2. You want a great receiver to break that young quarterback in. But I think it could be possible. I would give it a 35% chance that he could get traded.
Wow. That's a reasonably high percentage right there. And I got to ask you, here's the question of the day. I'm pulling up the Dynasty Trade Calculator, and I'm taking a quick look. And if you plug in Odell Beckham Jr., he's currently sitting comfortably at a 55.3 for how many points he's got for his valuation. And if you plug in the 101 and the 107, the 101 and 107, that's dead even with it. So now knowing that you're kind of concerned with Odell Beckham Jr., he might change teams. Which side would you pick between Odell Beckham Jr. and 101, 107?
Give me Odell Beckham Jr. rather easily. He's historic, even despite the hamstrings and the, whatever else in the ego. He's a great football player, and I want those on my teams.
There you go. I might agree with that. He's a lot of times I don't like the 2-for-1s. It's just that this is the best way to balance a trade. But I agree. I take the bigger asset in the deal here.
Izzy, what do you think on that? What do you take?
Yeah, I take OBJ. I'm definitely concerned about his dynasty value in the short term. I think long term it'll probably rebound. I mean, with the blunt plus the blow plus the injuries plus the contract situation, not stepping foot on the field. plus the trade rumors, all this stuff. It's obviously when you talk about the total package of concern, he's definitely got it. But that's not enough to pry away probably the best receiver in the league, second to Antonio Brown.
So would you say, since you're concerned short-term, not long-term, would you say this might be one of the best times to put your hat in the ring for maybe purchasing him, buy low?
Yeah, I mean, there's still, interestingly enough, although you're buying lower than his value has been for the last 18 months, I would say, there is definitely room for him to decline in value. Depending on where he ends up, obviously he's going to be a focal point, but he's not going to be a focal point likely on a team that's struggling to keep up with other teams. And the best thing about the Giants is they had a terrible run game because their offensive line is so bad, and their defense couldn't stop a nosebleed. So you were always playing catch up, and he was getting a lot of targets. If he goes to a team that's a little bit more balanced, or if let's say he goes to, hypothetically speaking, I'm just throwing this out there. Let's say he goes to Arizona, right? You don't know how he's going to be utilized and how many targets he's going to get. So there could be a chance for him to actually decrease even more in value. So I don't know. I like the Giants as a spot for him, especially in the short term. There are definitely some spots where I'm like, I don't love it if he gets traded. So I think there's definitely room for him to decline in value. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, like the Jets or something like that. Oof.
Oh my God, gross. No.
You know what this reminds me of, guys? This reminds me of when you have a great receiver like this that potentially could switch teams. It reminds me a lot of Brandon Marshall, where he, had the fallout in Denver, right? But then he had the fallout in Miami, and then he had the fallout in Chicago. And every time he switched, this great receiver with all his talent, he thrived everywhere. Could you guys really see a situation where he wouldn't thrive and be a wide receiver one?
No.
Literally any team?
Probably. I think he'd still be a wide receiver one with the Jets. I think another not great landing spot would be like the Panthers.
Jaguars.
Arizona. But you could keep going on Baltimore. But even there, he would just get pummeled with so many targets, and he's so good. I think he'd still be wide receiver one, right?
Yeah. That's true. No, absolutely. And I don't think there's really that many. Right now, if you look at the receivers, it's Hopkins and OBJ who are still young and elite. And then there's a huge drop-off of those guys that you're really going to say, these are my cornerstone pieces. I think Michael Thomas is a solid player. I don't know if I do know. I don't think he has the same upside as the OBJs and Hopkins. Evans, we've seen, he's been consistent, but he hasn't shown the ceiling that we've wanted to see. So there really isn't a receiver that's going to threaten those two guys as the best receivers in the league outside of Antonio Brown. So I think that's pretty safe. The question becomes, guys, is where do these running backs, let's say this season goes along and we start to see more and more running back favoritism in the NFL, does he get passed up by the Gurleys, I think Lev Bell might have a tough time doing that just based on how many miles he's had, but he could. David Johnson's if he bounces back. The Zeke's if he stays clean. Barkley if he really excels like everybody's thinking about. Kamara still. So if OBJ gets hurt again, or if he struggles out of the gates, we can definitely see him take a nice tumble here in the first round. I would not be surprised. Would you?
Well, I will say that depending on the league format, I wouldn't be upset if somebody took Gurley ahead of Odell Beckham Jr. Currently, in the calculator, Gurley is sitting at a 49, Odell Beckham Jr. is a 55. So actually the gap has closed significantly from a year ago. So I would probably say yes.
I think that one's even changed in the last couple of days, right? When you add Sue to the Rams, you think that defense is going to be that much better.
Ooh,
and teams aren't going to score as many points.
Scary.
There are going to be more running situations and have better for Gurley. So that one I can see, but I'm not sure. If there's another injury, a hamstring, right, or whatever else, a broken leg, I still would want OBJ over some of those running backs just based on the position, right? He has more years potentially than David Johnson has by a long shot, really. And so he's only 25, I believe, as well. So, we're not, it's not like he's AJ Green here or Dez.
Well, Gurley's 23, so they might actually have, very similar longevity left in their careers in each respective position.
No chance.
Why, you think Odell's probably got like 8 to 10 years and Gurley's probably got 7?
I think for Gurley getting the workload that he's getting, to be able to do that for another 7 years is going to be pretty tough.
Yeah, maybe. I just feel like elite running backs find a way to, stay relevant the older they get. They just do it.
Clinton Portis hit a wall at 28 and disappeared, and he got a pretty big workload both in Denver and Washington. I mean, that's a lot of carries for
Adrian
9 years.
Peterson.
Every player's a little different. Yeah, that's true. AP
it goes both ways.
Yeah, that's true. Frank Gore.
Yeah,
Frank Gore is still playing until he's 50. Yeah.
Curtis Martin, Tiki Barber.
Yeah, maybe you're right, Hurley. Maybe they do have similar paths to being elite for the same duration of time.
We'll see. And I think that the bottom line is that Todd, we're kind of seeing, Izzy, we talked about this a little bit the other day, but we're seeing this big positional shift. We were talking about this on Voxer, where running backs are becoming more and more and more important each year. And we're starting to see the shift where starting from like 2011, 2012, like that big draft, 2014 was like, so that was the biggest pendulum swing into the wide receiver territory. And I think we're starting to see that shift back into the running back position where people are valuing that running back spot so much higher, kind of to your point earlier. So I feel like Todd Gurley could easily close that gap, if not pass him.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you look at Dynasty ADP, you got, 6 receivers and 6 running backs. And you got to go back to 2013 when that was the case, whether you had just as many running backs as receivers, if not more. So we've had, 2014, 2015, 2016. You got 4 years of gap between when running backs and receivers were on equal footing. So
they're back.
They're back, yeah.
Running backs are back. All right, I think that's pretty good for the Odell Beckham Jr. I think just to kind of bring everything around, we're all a little bit concerned, but it's a short-term concern. Stick with him if you own him. I wouldn't be trading him away for any means, but maybe you might be able to find yourself in a small window to acquire him for a little bit less.
Well, I guess the question becomes, Hurley, for you guys is, outside of Hopkins, which receivers would you be comfortable trading OBJ for? So not straight up, obviously, a reasonable piece to give up OBJ. Like, are you comfortable taking on Mike Evans and paying his premium at 6 overall and something small to get OBJ, or are you writing out OBJ, right? Is essentially what I'm asking.
I think I'm sticking with OBJ. Just because there's some risk for all of them, but I'm not sure that Evans still has that ceiling of OBJ because it was so historic, and I like Evans. But even if you look at some of the other guys, like, what am I going to get a little bit on top of Antonio Brown for OBJ? No. I know you had mentioned Hopkins. Hopkins worries me. A lot of people don't talk about that concussion history. There's a little bit of that there, but I would rather have OBJ versus Michael Thomas plus, so I think I'm going to ride that wave.
Yeah, Hurley, can you pull up what would it take for, in the calculator, Michael Thomas plus what equals OBJ? Is it like the 108?
Michael Thomas is a 43 in the calculator. OBJ is a 55. So yeah, it'd be like in the 108 area.
107, 108. Michael Thomas plus 108.
Dead even with the 108.
Okay. And I'd personally rather have OBJ. I think a lot of people would sell OBJ for Michael Thomas in the 108. I wouldn't, but would you guys?
You know what? I would. I don't think I would do with the 108 just because it's just I would really consider taking like a 2-for-1 in this case, though. I'm not sure if you could get like a couple of guys, like an Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen kind of thing. That might be too much. But I would probably be looking for like that 2-for-1 value and just kind of hedge my bets with OBJ, spread the love a little bit, and hope for an Amari Cooper comeback kind of thing.
Gotcha. Well, what about you, Nick? Michael Thomas in 108.
No, that's still OBJ for me. Just because, there's risk with Michael Thomas post Drew Brees. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and Keenan Allen plus Amari Cooper is 66 to OBJ 55, so that'd be a little bit too much.
So
but maybe
OBJ
drop Keenan down to Allen Robinson or something like that.
So OBJ in 109 or Keenan and Amari?
Yeah, maybe. And I would even change Keenan to like Allen Robinson. I would choose like a value wide receiver,
Yeah, true.
So like Amari, Whalen, this is a great question for you since you're a newly acquired Allen Robinson fan joining the Chicago Bears. Would you rather have Odell Beckham Jr. and like a 110 or Amari and Allen Robinson?
Well, see, that's different. It's not as much about the players there as it's about I prefer on my teams to have more depth than high-end talent. I know a lot of people don't like that, but I like to have the depth because of injuries and suspensions and bye weeks and things like that. So I think it helps carry teams, and people don't think about that. So I would go with the double player there because you have two top, 24 assets then for one. So I think I would lean that way.
Hurley?
Same thing. I like the two assets, and I have I like both Allen Robinson and Amari Cooper as a buy low candidate. I think they just have a higher ceiling right now. They're pretty far down, and I see a big rebound coming for them at some point in the season. I might consider flipping them, but I see a rebound coming. And then actually, before I ask this, I'll have Izzy. Which side would you pick on that one?
I'd rather have the Allen Robinson, Amari Cooper side as well. Yep. Interestingly enough, though, if you changed it from Allen Robinson to Stephon Diggs, who's going 2 ADP spots ahead of Allen Robinson, I'd rather have OBJ than Diggs and Cooper.
Yep, I agree. Okay, Whalen, this is the burner question. We'll finish this segment of Odell Beckham Jr. off with this question for you. Plugging it in the Dynasty Trade Calculator, a 2-for-1 trade. Would you rather have Odell Beckham Jr. at 55.3 or Corey Davis and Allen Robinson at 55.9? So it's a pretty much dead even trade. Which side would you pick in a 12-team PPR?
Corey Davis, Allen Robinson.
You knew that was coming.
Yeah, it's the depth pick. It's a couple of Whalen's guys. So there you have it. Izzy, which side would you pick on that?
I'd go OBJ.
Okay. The Corey Davis is the deal breaker for you.
Yeah. I don't mind Corey Davis. I just, like I said, I've never loved him in Tennessee, and I still don't love him in Tennessee. So I'd still rather have OBJ in that scenario.
Okay. All right, well, let's move on to the next bullet here. We're talking about Andrew Luck, which I think he's probably made his way through a lot of podcasts lately, considering there's some new news on him. Starting with Izzy. Izzy, there's been some sightings of Andrew Luck throwing the ball, and that's a really good sign for him. Is this something that you would consider fool's gold, or are you buying into the news?
No, because they said the same. I was going to cuss, but they said the same thing last year. And what happened, right? We just got cookie trailed to the point where they IR'd him halfway through the season. No, I'm not buying it. Once I see video of him actually throwing, then I'll buy it. Also, I saw on Twitter that the Colts have rejected offers for Jacoby Brissett. So
yeah, that's
now sure they don't have anybody. They don't have anybody behind Andrew Luck. But if they were not concerned about Andrew Luck, I'm guessing if those offers were relatively fair or at least good value for them, they would entertain it. Look at it this way. Backup quarterbacks are a dime a dozen, especially when you're a team that if Andrew Luck is out, Brissett is not winning you more than 3 or 4 games in a season, right?
Yeah, tell that to Philadelphia, but yeah, continue.
Well, I mean, their team could support a quarterback that isn't elite. And Nick Foles played phenomenal. Let's give him credit. Brissett is not going to do what Nick Foles did. And if he did, he would need a great offensive line, he would need a good run game, he would need weapons, and he would need a good defense, which is what Nick Foles had. So to me, I don't understand why if they are really confident in Andrew Luck, if Andrew Luck is out, we saw Jacoby win. How many games did they win last year?
Like 2,
4?
3? Yeah.
3 or 4, maybe? So you look at that and say, why do we care about having a backup quarterback that's only going to win us 3 or 4 games? Let's cash him out and we'll draft a quarterback late and develop a different quarterback. The fact that they're declining them, and I'm guessing they're reasonable offers. I mean, most of these teams make reasonable offers, my guess. I would assume is cash out on these backup quarterbacks getting contracts. You know, I understand the Nick Foles one, wait until Carson Wentz shows that he's fully healthy, and that's exactly what it seems like Indy is doing. Maybe they're not confident in Andrew Luck. So I'm selling the notion of Andrew Luck being on his way to being a superstar again, just because of what happened last year and the fact that Jacoby Brissett is getting trade offers declined. I mean, or the Colts are declining trade offers for Jacoby. So I think there's just too much going on there for me not to discredit what they did last year.
So let's flip the script just a little bit. So I'm going to flip the Dynasty Trade Calculator over to the Superflex League format just to kind of talk about quarterbacks in a little bit different light. Andrew Luck is currently valued at a 42 in the calculator, which is kind of in the same neck of the woods as like a Cam Newton. If somebody makes an offer for one of those other quarterbacks and you have Andrew Luck, would you just kind of cut bait for like a Dak?
No, no, I wouldn't. I don't love Dak.
Like a Cam?
At this point, you can make a good case for Cam. I think maybe yes, cash out for Cam right now, but I would continue. Here's the thing with the Colts, and if you own Andrew Luck and you're thinking about trading him, now is not the time, because he's going to continue to develop, in quotes, you guys can't see this, but in quotes, develop, and probably come middle of the summer, they're going to be like, oh, he's going to be ready for this, and everything's going around. They're going to see videos of him throwing, and his dynasty value is going to increase. I would then sell at that point if you want to get out from it under Luck, just because it's going to be that much closer to him, quote unquote, returning. But I wouldn't sell at this point in time. If I had to get Cam, I probably would, just to secure that position in a Superflex league. But if I don't get an offer like Cam, I would just continue to hold out until I got to that point.
All right, Whalen, similar question. I'm going to start it off with the value thing, and then you can give me your weigh-in on what you think about the Andrew Luck situation. But would you rather have Andrew Luck, Jared Goff, or Jimmy Garoppolo? Rank those three.
That's a good question. I would go Luck, Garoppolo, Goff, probably, in that order. And I like Goff, so don't get me wrong. He's been number one quarterback in that class. But I think that San Francisco is going to need to throw more versus the Rams in that running game. So that's part of it. But okay, so here's the deal. Okay, so Luck, yes, he missed out on a year. And we've seen quarterbacks with shoulder injuries come back, like Pennington, multiple times, right? Even if you had a 80% Luck, a 60% Luck, that's still a pretty good quarterback, in my opinion.
Yeah.
He might have to change what he does a little bit. But if he gets a team around him that can hold him up, and they can surround him with some weapons. I mean, Moncrief didn't really work out. I still think he could be a good quarterback asset. Now, again, there's a chance it could be 100% Andrew Luck. And then you have a superstar again. His value has dropped dramatically. I mean, dramatically. And as Izzy's saying, I agree with him. Now's not the time to sell him, but now's the time to buy him. Because if you bought him right now, you could recoup, I would say, 130% and sell by the end of the summer. Or early fall or training camp. So really I think that would be the move right now. What?
That's really specific. I like that. That's a good even number. So this is the final question I got. So I'm just playing around with the calculator, throwing a bunch of quarterback names in that I think are similar. And guys like Jimmy Garoppolo, 37 to 42. Andrew Luck is 42. Jimmy's 37. They're all pretty close. Cam Newton's a 38 to Andrew Luck's 42. I found a dead-on example. So this is going to be a challenging question for you. Would you rather have Andrew Luck at 42.0 or Deshaun Watson at 42.5?
I'd rather have Andrew Luck.
Izzy, what about you?
I'd rather. I'd probably rather have Watson right now. God, I'd probably be selling both sometime in the middle of the summer.
Right. Well, part of it for me is, do people remember Watson's torn his ACL twice now? Within just a few years. I mean, that's a big risk too.
But the thing that he uses to get fantasy points still works, whereas Luck's is broken.
What if he can't be as mobile?
Yeah, and Watson to me is just a guy that's been able to extend plays with his legs, but he's not a guy that gets you a ton of fantasy points with his legs. Even if you tear an ACL, sure, you're not going to have the same speed and quickness and agility, but he's still going to have enough to escape pressure, to get out of the pocket, to make enough plays outside of the pocket. He's still going to be athletic enough to do that.
What if he doesn't, though? Tell me that. What if he loses a little bit of that and can't make as many of those plays?
I don't know if an ACL at this point, this far advanced with the modern medicine, would prevent him from being able to do those simple things that he's been able to do. You know what I mean? Like, what he does is not an uber athletic. You don't need that type of profile to do what he does. You know, I don't think he's as mobile and athletic creating plays as like a Russell Wilson, for instance. Do you know what I mean? Like, we look at.
No, I know what you mean, but I just don't think ACLs are just.
And
they're just like a sprained ankle. You know what I mean? That's what I think people treat them as now. Like there's a chance it could be way worse than that. There's a chance that it could be chronic. When you have 2 of them in 4 years, that's not good.
There is a chance. But, and this is what I was going to say, and I almost didn't, but we kind of have as a culture, we look at black quarterbacks and think they need to be super athletic to do all the things they need to do to be successful. And even at Clemson, that's not what Deshaun Watson was. I mean, even with 2 ACL injuries, and yes, I get it, there could be some ACL injuries that don't heal the way that some of them do now. I totally get that. I'm not a doctor, but I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night. But
did you get the continental breakfast?
Yeah, always you have to. But I think for him to extend plays, he needs like the marginal athleticism, which even a jank job of a ACL surgery would still get him to that. And of course, yeah, he might be diminished a little bit, but not enough to prevent him from being still a really solid quarterback. I would just sell Deshaun Watson just because, not the knee injury, just because the expectation that people have on him now because of those games. I mean, how many games did he play? 7?
Yeah, man.
Those 6 or 7 games, whatever. Yeah, and then, if you project those fantasy points out, that's phenomenal. Kind of like what, Nick, you were doing with Will Fuller. Yeah, if you project these numbers out, that's great. I'm not willing to pay that sort of premium and have that sort of premium on my team off of 7 games. So I'm going to sell on that premium. I would much rather, for instance, sell Deshaun Watson and try to pay a little bit more and get a Russell Wilson. Or pay a little bit more on top of that and get a Carson Wentz. Or take a little bit less and pick up a guy that I really like a Matt Stafford. I actually cash out a lot less and get a Matt Stafford. Those are the type of moves that I would make. So I would sell the Deshaun Watsons. I would sell the Jimmy Garoppolos to somebody that really likes it, just because the value where it's at is good enough for me to cash out and try to get something a little bit worse in terms of value, but still very productive, like a Cousins and a Stafford, and even James has been devalued quite a bit, or pay the extra and get the guys that I've seen do it for multiple seasons.
Yeah, that seems pretty reasonable. So, Whalen, do you have any final thoughts on this one before we move on?
I agree with Izzy.
Wow.
Woo.
Well done.
Pizza.
Nicely, yeah. Izzy must have paid for that one.
I did pay for the pizza, but he got the drinks.
Oh, there you go. That makes sense. Well, before we move on to the next segment of the podcast, I'd like to tell you something really quickly about our sponsors. This is fan-controlled football leagues. If you play Madden franchise mode, you're going to love the new fan-controlled football league, where all the personnel decisions, draft picks, and play calls are crowdsourced, and what the fans say goes no matter what. Visit fcfl.io to learn more. The FCFL, where you're in control. All right, let's keep it on the quarterback talk, you guys. This is kind of becoming like a super flex themed podcast, like we mentioned at the beginning. So let's kind of keep on that wagon. We're going to switch the script a little bit and talk about rookies specifically. And we've got a whole bunch of bullets here, some things to talk about, but we're gonna kind of mix it up here a little bit. So I'm going to start it off a little bit differently. I'm going to give Nick Whalen a chance to go first. So Nick, of all the rookie quarterbacks, considering you've spent copious amounts of time studying film, getting ready for the Devy Report, which comes soon. Look for the Devy Report coming soon. Do you have like a song or a jingle for your website or your company?
No, I think you're mentioning the graduates, though. That's out, because that would be this rookie class.
Oh, right? Yeah, that's right. This would be this rookie class. So the graduates is already out. So, I mean, is there a fancy jingle for the graduates then?
I'll let you pick up a jingle. I'm not really creative that way.
Like 588-2300 graduates.
Today.
Thank you.
Do I have to pay for this ad?
Well, we'll send a check. We'll send a bill.
Okay.
I'll have my receptionist bill you. But yeah, look for the graduates. Got a full write-up on these quarterbacks. So since you've spent a lot of time studying film and getting prepared for that, why don't you rank all 5, like I shouldn't say all 5 because there's more than 5, but rank your top 5 rookie quarterbacks for 2018.
Okay, my top 2 are very close. Number 1's Rosen, and then number 2 is Baker Mayfield. And then there's a little drop-off, and then I have Josh Allen, and then Sam Darnold, and then there's a drop-off, and then I have Luke Falk, number 5.
So who's your third?
Josh Allen.
Okay. So Luke Falk ahead of Lamar Jackson.
Correct.
Okay.
Can I just say a really quick disclaimer? I want to say, for those of you that are listening out there, we did a Twitter poll to find out what % of the Dynasty community actually plays in a Superflex league. And it was like 60-65, which has grown exponentially over last year. But if you haven't had a chance to join one, I would highly encourage it because it's totally different. It's so much more fun. The value of the quarterback, which is the most important position on the field, goes way up. And it kind of stretches you a little bit. So the 30%, 35% that hasn't joined one, I would highly encourage you to give it a shot. It's so much fun. So having that been said, Whalen's ranked his top 5 rookie quarterbacks. And like I said, rookie quarterbacks are usually kind of a dime a dozen for one quarterback leagues, but this is everything in Superflex. So Izzy, what are your top 5 quarterbacks?
Yeah, I have Rosen in a tier by himself, and then I have Baker Mayfield second. I actually have Lamar Jackson third. I have Sam Darnold fourth, and then Josh Allen fifth. And I've been against the Darnold and Allen for a long time, so I think there's a pretty big drop off. The reason why I have Lamar Jackson in there is I think he potentially has transcendent qualities, and I think that gives him the edge in my opinion. He could become the most dynamic quarterback in the league, and that to me has a nice allure to it. So that's why I kind of have him in my top 3, because I think there's enough concerns with Darnold and Allen that I can offset the concerns that Jackson has, which there are a lot, in favor of the just elite athleticism that he possesses.
So, I mean, Lamar Jackson's kind of a polarizing player. Let's say that you are picking in a Superflex league and you have the rookie draft pick, like a top 7 pick. Would you consider taking him that early, or would you try to hold off on him?
Lamar Jackson?
Yeah.
Top 7?
Yeah.
No, I probably wouldn't take him top 7. No.
So you try to push it like late first, early second.
Yeah, I think
league?
you can get him late first, early second. Absolutely. He's, like you said, he's polarizing. So there will be guys that reach randomly for players like Jackson, where you'd be like, oh, okay, I did not expect that. That's way too early. And then on the flip side, there will be drafts where the variance of where he would fall is a lot greater than any of the quarterbacks that are in this draft, just because of how he plays. But okay. I think Lamar Jackson's going to be. We always talk about better NFL player than fantasy player. We say it with a lot of players in the league. Like I said it with John Ross like last year. I think that he would, when he does stay healthy, I think he's going to be a better NFL player than a fantasy player. I think the exact opposite with Lamar Jackson. I think as a fantasy player, he's going to be great. As an NFL player, I think there's definite room for concern. The only issue is that there's a lot of teams that need quarterbacks. It's really difficult to find them. And somebody that is super athletic like Lamar Jackson is and can still throw the ball around, there should be a job for him for a long time.
Yeah, that's a good point. So I want to flip it back over to Nick. Nick, still on the same topic here. You said Rosen at number 1?
Yes.
So let's say that you've got a top 3 pick in a Superflex league. Would you spend one of those top 3 picks on Rosen, depending on obviously what falls? But
no, I wouldn't.
You'd try to hold off a little bit later?
I like Rosen, and he's my top 1, but there's enough concern that there are 4 different quarterbacks that anybody could have as their top guy right now. And I think that would cause me to not want to take one of them early, and I would hang and wait on your guy, I would think. Because some people don't even have Rosen as number 1. I know me and Izzy both do. Some like Darnold, some like Mayfield, etc. So I think you can hang and wait and not spend a top 3 pick on him.
So what if Odell Beckham Jr. goes to the Jets and the Jets draft Rosen?
He's still not a top 3 pick.
Fair enough. Just wanted to try to challenge you.
Well, that New York pressure, that's concerning too.
Yeah.
Hey, Nick, why is Lamar Jackson outside of your top 5?
I don't know that we have enough time in this podcast to go over everything. Lamar Jackson has so many things he needs to improve on, in my opinion, for him to be a multiple year starting quarterback in the NFL. He is a great runner. I'll give him that. I think he's a more dynamic runner than Michael Vick is, because I think that he pressure cuts so much better. He can read defenders so much better. However, in terms of passing, I just don't see it. I don't see it as he doesn't make multiple reads well, doesn't read defenses well. His pocket presence is actually really bad. His footwork is bad. he gets pressure because he steps up, he doesn't step back. He's on his toes. It looks really weird. Throwing outside to the sideline is difficult for him. Accuracy down the field is difficult for him. There's very few areas throwing the ball do I see him being successful outside of his first read. And a lot of times that's not actually even your throw, and a lot of short stuff. So, to me, he's a big, big project, and I would rather have 5 quarterbacks over him. Even I think Falk's a project, but I think that Jackson's going to get picked higher than I won't own him in any league. He'll get picked before me in every fantasy league.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the things that you mentioned were a lot of the same concerns that people had of Michael Vick. So if you think that Lamar Jackson could be a better athlete than Michael Vick, and remember, Michael Vick, even in college, was like a 55-ish% completion quarterback. So even in college, he wasn't an elite passer of the football. And in the NFL, it didn't get much better. And maybe it did, I don't know. But I'm guessing he was still in the mid-50s for completion percentage. So now you have a quarterback like Lamar Jackson who's actually shown improvement as a passer in each of the 3 years that he played. And with Michael Vick being a horrible passer throughout the course of his career, Michael Vick made a career and a lot of people happy in fantasy leagues based on what he did on the ground. And that's what Lamar Jackson will do. So if you think he's a better runner, why can't he become...
He doesn't scramble as much. He doesn't. And when he does scramble, he's trying to look downfield and he doesn't get depth, and they're really inaccurate throws. I mean, this is, I looked at a lot of games and I improved on Jackson over the years. I was like, well, he actually could be a quarterback. But after I studied him really in depth this time, I really do not see him succeeding. I really don't. And because there has to be a base level line of throwing the football for someone to be a successful NFL quarterback. And I just don't see it from him. I don't. I mean, I know what you're saying, Izzy, but I'm not going to take that risk. I'll let other people take that risk before I will in a fantasy league.
So where would you rank him amongst the quarterbacks? So who would you rather have, him or Blake Bortles?
So we're doing like overall rankings.
Yeah, overall. So like if Blake Bortles was on the board,
I think I'd rather Blake Bortles.
Okay, so would you rather have Andy Dalton or Lamar Jackson in a Superflex league?
I'd rather have Dalton.
Tyrod.
Ooh. The writing's kind of on the wall for Tyrod, so I guess you might have a shot at Lamar.
Okay. So you'd probably have him right outside the top 30. He'd be like 31 or 32 in your range.
Well, when you add in these quarterbacks, he's probably, somewhere like 35 probably.
Yeah, and I included those guys in. So I'm looking at DLF ADP. Tyrod Taylor is 31st, and I'm guessing everybody above
Tyrod, because Andy Dalton is 30.
I take him over like Sam Bradford, who's like just a sitting in 1 year duck,
Yep, and Sam Bradford's somewhere in the he's not even in the top 36. So, and you'd rather have Tannehill? Would you rather have Tannehill or Jackson?
I haven't studied what the downfall of Tannehill is. I really need to look into that one. That's like a sad story over there in Miami.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so like you said, you're not going to get Lamar Jackson, which is totally fine. I don't know if Hurley has a preference over Lamar Jackson, like if he's a Lamar Jackson fan or not, but he is polarizing. Absolutely.
It's just weird. It's like there's certain parts to his game where, like you said, like if it's a designed run where he can do great things, and you can see how he like shortened up his motion. Like you can see things where he developed a little bit, but man, like for him to be like a pure passer, like there's just so many things like you would think he'd be so much better at. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he just hasn't done it. I don't know. I just think there's just so much risk there.
He could be like Tebow, where teams try to develop Tebow and it just doesn't work. And I mean, Tebow, I think, was a lot more.
Oh, Tebow was terrible.
There was a lot
more white.
It was, well, yeah, he was a lot more white, but from Lamar Jackson is, you look at both of those players and you say, Lamar Jackson has a better chance of being able to refine his game as a passer, where Tebow, you need to just dismantle the whole thing.
Well, Jackson's throwing motion is like a third of what Tebow's was.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So, yeah. I mean,
the big thing, and I'll end this with Lamar Jackson. The reason why I really like Lamar Jackson is that playing the quarterback position to him seems effortless. It just seems like a natural thing. And I think it's really difficult for college quarterbacks to have that. Even if he isn't a great passer and he's not an accurate passer, he still always looks supremely confident and he's just got that it factor to him. He looks like a gamer to me. He looks like a guy that's super confident. He's not going to waver. He takes punishment. Like, that to me is really important as a quarterback. He doesn't have that David Carr thing where as soon as pressure comes, he starts panicking, right? And David Carr had that. I don't see that with Lamar Jackson. And maybe I'm just looking at it with rose-colored glasses, and I very well could, because I'm defending him because I think people are a little bit too harsh on him. But I think he's confident. I think that goes a long way.
Did you say Rosen-colored glasses?
Rosen-colored, yes. Yeah, and that's the same thing with Rosen. I think Rosen's just Rosen knows that he's a stud, like, and he's confident that he's a stud. Where I think some of these other quarterbacks, especially Sam Darnold, I don't think Sam Darnold does not strike me as I am super confident. He looks jittery at times. He doesn't look like he's confident. He's rarely set when he makes passes, especially when he's going through progressions. Like, there's a lot of things I don't like about Sam Darnold that I like about other players, just based on how they play the position, how they come off to me. I think that's what makes me a fan of Lamar Jackson, what makes me a fan of Josh Rosen. I mean, if Nick disagrees with Lamar Jackson being, like, supremely confident as a quarterback, then obviously we'll never come to agreement on that, or him as a player. But, well, I guess we'll see. I mean, that's why we do this.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a pretty good stopping point for quarterbacks. That was a really nice deep coverage for rookie quarterbacks for Superflex leagues out there. Let's move on to the final segment of the podcast. This is Twitter trades. So the first trade was tweeted out by Justin Woodruff. He's asking, coincidentally, we talked about Odell Beckham Jr. It's not a coincidence because our producer always likes to keep things into a theme. Odell Beckham Jr. or Jordan Howard, Josh Gordon, and a 2019 random first. This is a 12-team PPR. After 350 votes on Twitter, it went 69% for Odell Beckham Jr., and it is about dead even on the calculator, 55-53 for OBJ. Whalen, pick a side.
I'd take OBJ just because you have, one, the solid asset. Two, I'm not sure what Jordan Howard's role is going to be in Chicago long term with a new coach. I kind of talked about that a little bit, and I like Cohen, and just you don't know what's really going to happen there. Josh Gordon, it's up in the air. I know people really love him, but he hasn't had a great fantasy season since 2012. And 19 firsts are things I'm looking to kind of acquire right now. But again, that's a random thing. So versus a complete stud, I'm going to take the stud.
Yeah, I agree with that. I actually like Jordan Howard considerably more than you, actually, being a Chicago Bears fan. I'm okay with Josh Gordon, and I like 19 firsts, but I do not like 3 for 1. So I take Odell Beckham Jr. as well. I think that's pretty fair to say. So next trade was tweeted out by Yam Snapper. Izzy, is this your like undercover Twitter handle, Yam Snapper?
It's my burner account.
This is Izzy's burner account. Izzy is asking, pick a side in a super flex league, so that's going to throw things a little bit off. Would you rather have Carlos Hyde, Duke Johnson, and the 109, or Christian McCaffrey? What a perfect trade to ask Izzy. After 130 votes on Twitter, it was 58% for McCaffrey. The trade calculator, when you plug it into Superflex, it's 34-27 in favor of that package with Hyde, Duke Johnson, and the 109. Izzy, pick a side on this and tell me why.
Yeah, the risk is that the Browns still take Barkley. I will take the chance on the pick side just because it is Superflex, and I think one of those 5 quarterbacks you can get, and I'm gonna bet that the Browns don't take Barkley. And I love Christian McCaffrey, but I think that's enough. And Nick had mentioned depth earlier. I think it's nice to have depth. I think with Carlos Hyde and Duke Johnson, those are both serviceable. Even if Carlos Hyde is a running back 1 or dominates the touches in the backfield, I think Duke Johnson still has potential to be a mid RB2. And then you get a chance to get another quarterback in a Superflex league at the 109, or at the very least a solid running back potentially. And I'll take that.
There you go. And I agree with you, Izzy. I would take the package. My reasoning is slightly different. I would take the package. I would keep the 109 and maybe hope for one of those quarterbacks like you're saying. But I might take Duke and Carlos and move them for a running back that I like better, or try hard to. So that way I wouldn't get, all your eggs are kind of in one basket there with those two guys, because both of their value is tied to that rookie running back, just in case Cleveland decides to throw us through a loop and take Saquon or somebody like that. So
yeah, I will say there is no wrong answer with that. If somebody said Christian McCaffrey, I would totally accept that answer.
Yeah, it's a close one. That is a close one. Okay, the next trade was tweeted out by Rich Meyer. Nick Whalen, Rich Meyer is asking you, in a 12-team PPR, this is a one-quarterback league. By the way, a lot of these Twitter handles are getting really good at giving some context on your league. Whenever you tweet out a trade, obviously use the @FFDynastyTrades handle so we can retweet it for you. The Dynasty Trades hashtag is always really nice. But give us some of your league context. That way people have an educated guess when they're voting instead of just doing like a blind guess in a vacuum. So Rich Meyer tweeted out Dak Prescott in a 304 rookie pick or Corey Coleman, Alex Smith. After just 65 votes on Twitter, it was 66% for the Corey Coleman, Alex Smith side. And in the Dynasty Trade Calculator, it was 13-10 in favor of the Dak side. Whalen, what do you pick on this one?
Yeah, this is pretty easily the Dak side for me, even if you don't have the pick thrown in there. Just because Corey Coleman's value has completely dropped off due to them getting in Jarvis Landry. And, they're probably going to be adding in more assets. They already have Njoku. You got Josh Gordon there. He's really been the forgotten guy, a guy that I've never been really high on, to be fair. But and I don't really, loathe the idea of, getting him at a value. But in this one, Alex Smith is going to have a limited, I don't think he has as many years as Dak has. I think Dak's going to have better weapons kind of surrounding him. So I think that's certainly the area to go here in terms of getting, a package. So if you get 2 for 1, I'd still rather have Dak here.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'd go Dak here. He's the best asset in the deal. So go Dak. I don't trust Corey Coleman. I have, reasonable expectations for Alex Smith, but he's lost a lot of his supporting cast in Washington that he had in Kansas City. So probably not a great play to, reinvent 2017 again for Alex. But moving on to the final trade of the segment. This one was also tweeted out by Izzy's burner account, Yam Snapper. Izzy, you're basically asking yourself this question again. So once again, PPR Superflex, this is a pick-loaded trade. Would you rather have the 103, 104, and 109 or the 101? And after 200 votes on Twitter, shockingly, it went with the 103, 104, 109 side. Usually Twitter always picks the 101 regardless of what's on the other side. It was 52% for the package, and then on the trade calculator, it was 60-43 in favor of the package. So Izzy, give us your take on this one.
Superflex. Yeah, I'll take the picks. It's close, but I'll take the picks. Yep, I'll take the package.
Yeah, I think you're probably just getting one too many shots at, a quarterback, maybe 2 quarterbacks, and one of those top 3 running backs. So I think the gap is closed. You get some depth. That's probably the right choice there.
Yeah, I just look at that and I see 3 picks, 2 of them being really high in a Superflex league. I look at this as a perfect opportunity to take one of those, maybe the 103 or 104. And if you don't love the running backs at the top of the draft, it's a perfect opportunity to move that 103 for like a 108 and 2019 first. And then you can just continue to load your team up with picks down the road and just assets in general. So I think there's just a lot of opportunity to turn that into a lot of different assets. So that's why I would do it.
There you have it. Actually, just since this is the final trade, Whalen, what side would you pick on this one?
I'd take Saquon Barkley here. I would do that because I understand what you guys are saying, and I, to each their own. But philosophically, again, this is to me, this is OBJ versus taking some chances, and I'm not confident any of those quarterbacks are going to be studs. And so, if you want to take the lotteries, that's fine. But I think Saquon is a really, really good shot. We're looking at this next year. He's the RB1, RB2, and a top 5 asset. So, would you guys trade a top 5 asset for those 3 picks? Let's say that's OBJ.
It's a great way to frame it. And this is another one like that first trade. I wouldn't be mad with either side you picked.
Yeah. I think in a regular league without Superflex, I agree. I would rather have Barkley. I think the Superflex adds enough element there for me to cash out on Barkley. But I think similar to the Christian McCaffrey trade, I don't think there's a wrong answer. Obviously, Barkley is the safest player with the highest floor, highest ceiling. But I just love the opportunity to, like you said earlier, just add depth.
Are you excited about any of these quarterbacks, Izzy? Like I watch them, and I initially was, and the more I look at it now, I'm not excited that any of them are going to be a top 8 asset or quarterback anyway.
I love Rosen, I do, I really do, and durability is a concern. I think but I don't think that's enough to hate the guy. I think Rosen can step into just about any system right now and be a solid quarterback.
Rosen.
I really like him. I don't know why he's getting
trapped.
I mean, he's lost some arm strength for me. He had some better arm strength earlier in his career than he does now. And that part worries me. We got the injury concern. And then you have, a lot of these, experts, he's not even the top quarterback getting picked.
Yeah. There's a lot of, I don't want to, people look at the potential and the potential of Darnold because he's got arm strength and he's got mobility and he's got people look at these players and they assume I can develop them. You look at Jamarcus Russell went first overall because he had so much raw potential. I could develop him. All those guys, Josh Allen, I can develop him. You look at Rosen, you're not working with much. You're working with a quarterback that's probably doesn't have much room to grow as a passer. I mean, he's already refined as a pocket passer, but he's not going to extend plays with his legs. It's not his game. He can a little bit. He could do it in a pinch, but you're really not working with a fresh canvas like you are with some of these other quarterbacks. The ceiling for these other quarterbacks, he has the highest floor, and probably I will agree that these other guys have the highest ceiling, but the ceiling for these guys to get there is going to take a lot of work and a lot of luck. So I look at Rosen and I say, okay, cool. No arm strength. Yeah, Breeze doesn't have arm strength. Peyton Manning didn't have arm strength. Tom Brady does not. These guys, they don't make their money with arm strength. They make their money with accuracy. The best quarterbacks that have ever played this game play it with accuracy. They don't play with arm strength. Arm strength is the biggest fool's gold thing out there. So give me the guy that's the most accurate and the guy that's the most ready.
Yeah, right. Tell that to Jamarcus Russell, Izzy.
Yeah, right.
Tell it to Brett Favre.
But Brett Favre, you look at him and he was a turnover machine. He's a gamer. You ride and die with Brett Favre just based on how he is, but he's a gunslinger. Matt Stafford's a gunslinger.
Yeah, I love Matt Stafford.
Marino, we're the same way.
Yeah, I mean, and Marino, Marino's is all time, right? And Elway's all time.
Warren Moon. Oh, he's my favorite quarterback. I had to throw that in there.
Moon had a cannon.
Yeah, I look at
Warren.
What an underrated player, by the way.
Hell yeah,
Warren Moon is awesome.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, but I think accuracy trumps all for me.
It does. It does, but it doesn't overcome not having any arm strength. I mean, ask David
I wouldn't
Foles.
say any. He can still make.
Ask Kellen Moore.
Oh my God! Don't tell me that he's Ken Dorsey. Don't give me the Ken Dorsey talk. Okay.
Oh boy.
He's a winner. Okay, is he? He's a winner.
He's a winner.
No, I think Rosen has enough arm strength to make all the throws. They said the same thing. Your guy.
I think he does. I'm not saying that. He's my number one quarterback. We both agreed. Can't we just end the pod with agreeing?
Let's just agree, guys.
All right, we're in. Rosen, we're in. Number one quarterback.
That's a good place to stop. We all agree. We like Josh Rosen. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of changes and stuff with landing spots, and we're all just speculating right now, but it's fun to speculate, so that's what we're doing here. So I'd like to say thank you for everybody for tuning in this week. Give us a quick rating and review on the platform you're listening to us on. Leave us a comment. If you love our website, you love our podcast, the best way to support us is to go to the website, subscribe to the Dynasty Trade Calculator for $2, as little as $2 for a month, $5 for a quarter. Just support us. Give us your thoughts. Let us know how we're doing. Follow each of us on Twitter. The main handle is at FF Dynasty Trades. You can follow Nick Whalen at _Nick Whalen. Don't spell it underscore. That's just the symbol. You can follow myself at DTC_John H, and Izzy is at DTC_Izzy E. The fabulous John Moeser sitting behind the curtains at DTC_John Moeser. Rosen, thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.
This episode is brought to you by Scout Fantasy, home of the Fantasy Football World Championships. Scout is your one-stop shop for expert advice on Dynasty, Redraft, and DFS. Join the Scout Army at scoutfantasysports.com and start your new membership today.